On this week's show, I speak to Andrew Davies, a university lecturer, regarding the whole battle between learning on YouTube versus going to university and getting a formal education. I hope you enjoy this show. This is The Photography Junkie. On this week's show, we tackle the question YouTube versus university. It's a question that I've wanted to ask for a while, but I've not had a decent opponent, so to speak, on the other side of the aisle. But tonight, or today even, I've got a good friend of mine, and he teaches at college or university. We'll find out which shortly, and it'll be a whole discussion about it. So I'd like to welcome to the show Andy.
Hello, thank you for having me, Jay.
You're more than welcome. So tell us what it is you do.
Okay, so I am the program leader on the BA Honours Media Production degree at Salford University Centre, which is a association of Salford University partnership.
So for the Americans that listen, are you a teacher?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'll do, I'll start again. So I am Andy Davies, and I am a lecturer in media production at Salford City College at the University Centre, an associate lecturer at Salford University in Media City, UK.
See, that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does. I've said it just a few times.
So what does that job entail in general?
Wow, the job entails. So basically, I teach students. It's a 3-year degree program, and on the 3 years, they complete a number of modules. And these modules are like units. So there's advanced editing, there's TV drama production, there's cinematography, there's producing modules. And at the end of their degree, they will have a multifaceted workflow of the media production industry, which they can use them tools for their future employment.
So how long have you been teaching?
So I started lecturing, back in 2014.
Okay. And what made you sort of get into that role?
So when I was a kid, I was always fascinated of technology and opening up VHS recorders and getting electrocuted and finding out how things work. And I'm also a little bit of a nosy person, and I like gossip. So I think the fusion of wanting to know stories of people and taking things apart sort of led me to this interesting industry of media production, because it allows technology and humanism and being human and telling stories at the same time.
Another sort of direction potentially could have been that you could have ended up as an electrical engineer. What was it about the sort of human experience that led you towards that direction?
The human experience, I loved art, photography. I'm a very visual person, and with the visuals and taking stills, and when I was taking stills, I'm a very traditional man. So when I was at school, we were shooting on 35mm, monochrome, Ilford stock. We had to shoot.
Which is still available now.
Exactly, still available. I was amazed where you can shoot on a roll of film and then develop that roll of film and then enlarge the negative, and you can see your image develop right in front of your eyes. And that was when I was in high school, and I thought, wow. And then I thought, well, actually, imagine what can happen if you want to make them images move. And then that's where my passion grew, really. And then from there, I went to study my A-levels at King David Sixth Form College in media production. And then after that, I then went to study, funnily enough, at Salford University. I completed my degree back in 2005, Bachelor of Science with honours in broadcast techniques. And then after I graduated, I then started as a production runner, camera assistant, camera editor, and after then I then went on to be promoted as editor, camera operator. And then my career just built up really from there. And then a lot of my jobs were freelance contracts. I was extremely lucky. I met my wife when I was in broadcasting as a freelancer, and then we found out my wife was pregnant, and then I needed to have some brackets here, stable work, close brackets, and then I got a job as a media technician in a college, and it was great. But I felt when I was a media technician at the college, I saw some of the teachers, I've got to be careful here for legal reasons, but I felt some of the teachers wasn't actually teaching the students the correct protocols and processes of practical filming camera kit. And I felt, hey, I could do a better job. And I remember, and I had some guts, because I went to the head of college and I knocked on his door and I said to him, let me be a teacher. Let me teach these media students properly. And he looked at me and I thought he was going to grill me. And he didn't. He said, I'm going to give you 1 week for you to teach and see how you get on. And then from then, the rest is history. And I still do freelancing to this day, just not a lot really. I'm really happy in my position to teach the next generation of industry professionals.
See, the thing I find interesting about your actual sort of your direction is very straight direction. A lot of people sort of go around, try different things, but you've known right from the start the direction you wanted to go. I think that's quite a rare quality in our world.
Yeah, I think you've got to be focused, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I think having autism helps, and being dyslexic, and I think that helps with structure.
It does with me.
Yeah, and I think you find from your other guests who you've interviewed, we have, dyslexia, ADHD. We have some sort of level of autistic tendencies, and I think that only helps us to become more focused rather than wishy-washy and try different things.
Yeah. I mean, for me myself, I started off in the audio world, and I went to college as an audio engineer. but my brain being what it is, I'm able to sort of laser focus on very specific things and learn a lot fast. But which is why I find the sort of the direct of knowing what you wanted to do as in high school, going straight the way through to the career, I find that quite interesting. First time we met was on set for a World War II romance.
Yes.
We were not characters in the romance, just so everybody knows.
Although he was a good kisser.
Apparently, yeah.
It was fun. You were our set photographer, and
yeah, I was doing behind the scenes stuff on that day, but I also ended up being your guiding hand as you walk backwards down a train platform.
I remember that very, very well. And it was cold, and it was raining. And the thing about rain is it makes sound. And the thing about sound, it really buggers up on your audio track when you're trying to sync it in post. And we were trying to shoot in between the rainfall. That what I can remember.
Everybody got wet that day. And then we had the issue of trying to make it so that we've got continuality in between takes. So the people listening understand. We had 30 people that day.
Yeah,
30 people that were on camera that day, and so it was a great day. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I do look back on it fondly as well.
I remember when we had because we actually had did we have a train? I think we did. Did we?
We did have the train go past.
Yeah, and we needed to. I was really adamant. I wanted a certain amount of steam coming off the engine, and
it just didn't produce anything.
No. And they all looked at me going, "Are you nuts, Andrew? It's a steam engine." I know, but can we just have the steam going out to the left? It's like, no, we couldn't. Oh, them days. So no, I think I've always wanted to be quite focused in my career path. Really, it's good.
So when a student sort of comes to you, what would you say is the sort of steps that they go through in that course?
So there's two parts. There's the official part where students enroll on a 3-year course. After the 3 years, they graduate with a BA Honours Media Production degree.
And what are they learning in that course?
They're learning film and critical analysis, how to read a film. They're learning editing, so they're learning DaVinci Resolve, they're learning Avid Media Composer and other softwares out there as well. They're learning how to film in terms of cinematography, how to light, how to understand lenses, aperture, ISO, production management, working on live TV show broadcasts, producing TV dramas. So it's a very practical course. I would say it's 80% practical and 20% theoretical. And remember, my degree is not studies. I don't want students to write about a camera. I want students who can use a camera. So it's the practical element.
So preparing them for actually going out into
Yes.
the industry itself.
So we do. I'm very lucky. I have incredible relationships with the big top broadcasters. And we are based in the heart of Media City, UK.
Right. And so that's things like the BBC and
Yeah. So,
and
so
other national
yeah,
ones?
so we have Doc 10 Studios. Funnily enough, the head of Doc 10 came in to deliver a speech to our students last week. Lovely guy, Andy, fantastic guy. And we have BBC, we have ITV. We also have a lot of smaller independent companies because we try to break down the misconceptions of stereotype, because there's thousands of graduates, UK wide, never mind national, international. They all want a job in the so-called term media world, but unfortunately, there's more graduates, media production graduates out there than there are jobs. So what we do is offer our students a multifaceted workflow, which isn't just your Beeb, your ITV, your Channel 4. There's Unreal, there's AI, there's Intel, there's Microsoft, there's Amazon Web Services. And all these companies actually use video production on an international basis. So it's really educating students out there of all the different job opportunities compared to your stereotype of working.
So one thing I imagine with the course, especially with the ones in the sort of earlier courses, you and I both know within the industry it's a lot harder than you would imagine. When people get exposed to that, the various different jobs within that world that we call ours. Do you find that there's a certain sort of a dropout rate, so to speak, or people realise that it's not quite what they thought it would be?
So we're actually in a very good year. So this year, our retention is 95% for the whole year. So only 2 people dropped out. However, when they graduate, I call this the student's 4th year. The 4th year is an unofficial year. And it's that year where the student has come off the track. So they don't have to be in for lectures at 9:30. They're not going to get a kick up the bum from their lecturers. The only person they've got for motivation is them. And to help prepare my students for the 4th year, I deliver a lecture. I deliver a lecture called "I'm a Freelancer, Get Me Out of Here."
Okay.
And this is a 4-hour intense and very, very enjoyable lecture on facing truths, facing your fears. And it's about surviving within your 4th year, dealing with clients, how to conduct yourself at a job interview, understanding what you need for your show reel, CVs, and self-employment and law. So I find the "I'm a Freelancer, Get Me Out of Here" lecture is a very important lecture for my students as well, and it allows the students to voice all their concerns. So when I say to my students, this door is now closed, it's a closed safe room, and I want you all to vent, including swearing, what their fears are. And after the lecture, they all feel calm because they've talked about all their worries, their anxieties. For example, and I do apologise if I'm stereotyping here in advance, you have a student who's studying medicine. They're on a 7-year course, and absolutely, it is intensely hard to be a doctor. Exams after exams. But 9 times out of 10, when you graduate as a doctor, you are going to get yourself a job in the NHS. Because there's a high demand for doctors, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in the media industry, because there's loads of people.
It's all about the hustle.
It's all about the hustle. And I try to train and help my students with their mental health, because when you've been knocked down again and again and again, you start to go down this very dark path. It's very hard for students to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and it becomes self-enforcing, doesn't it? That circle of I try, I get a no. I try, I get a no. And it only really takes out one sort of yes, but you've got to go through those no's first.
You do, and when I mean no, I mean I put myself on this. I use myself as an example. I got 56 no's in my fourth unofficial year. 56 no's.
Yeah, I can imagine how that would.
And I got one yes, and that's all I needed.
But that's the industry, though, and it's I'm pretty sure it's the same for actors as well. Most of their world is no's.
It's actually worse for actors. It's harder for actors because actors have got a very specific niche set of skills. Media practitioners have a lot more skills to offer from a technical point of view. So I think it's incredibly hard for actors starting off. Yeah.
So you've been doing this a while now, and during that time there has been the shift of online streaming, YouTube. Now, how many students are coming in now with the sole purpose of wanting to be a streamer or wanting to be a YouTuber? Or have you noticed a shift in sort of trend? Or
absolutely. I just want to talk. Can I talk about the lockdown?
Yeah. Yep.
Because it is something which is related to this. My colleague went on maternity leave, and I was acting program leader, so I was responsible for the entire program. 2 days later, the Prime Minister back then was Boris Johnson. He addressed the nation as he was preparing the country to go into a full lockdown. And I will never forget this. I said to my wife, can you put the kids to bed? And can you make me a lot of coffee? Because it's going to be a long night. As soon as Boris Johnson made the speech, I sent out a blanket email to all my students saying, look guys, we're currently in lockdown, but please do not worry. Myself and my team are going to be working extremely hard to sort out the future of your degree. And they really appreciated that. And to cut a very long story short, I was on a Zoom meeting with all the big CEOs and all the big important people of the university. And we were going through all the modules, and what my manager said to me at the time, and what about the TV studio? I take it you're not gonna run with it. And I went, no, I still want the TV studio. Yeah, but you can't because you need a building. And I went, no, you don't need a building. And then, basically, to cut a very long story short, my students were able to produce a full-blown 30-minute live broadcast in lockdown conditions. Because a lot of my cohort in my group for the TV studio, they were gamers themselves and streamers. And in terms of keeping things inclusive and being inclusive at any in any educational institution from primary all the way up to university is paramount for any institution. So I asked my students to individually send me an email of all their technology and their internet speed, so I can then basically adapt the assignment brief to every single student with all the kit what they've already got at home. And it was a raging success. And I presented my research all over the UK, and it was fantastic. So I think, yes, streaming now is crucially important. My graduates last year, 80% of them are editors for streaming companies.
Right. And when you were forced to go down that road with the students, was it surprising how many had the gear or had an aptitude for it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of my colleagues were very nervous, and a lot of my colleagues had high anxiety. I actually was the opposite. I was like, fantastic. However, I would just like to say on record I have the utmost respect for every single person who's, had COVID and who has unfortunately lost their lives to COVID from that. But sidestepping that to education, I thought it was a fantastic opportunity to really push the diversity of innovation to the maximum level, and it allowed my students to really shine. One of my students, he was a vision mixer, and he designed a system with OBS and Discord and Teams and Zoom to interlink with each other. I gave him 100% on his technical skills. He was teaching me. A lovely guy called Adam, and now he's working as a engineer for some of the top broadcasters. So it did allow students to really shine on that new development.
There's a big change that's happened now that the ability to stream and to output your own videos via YouTube, it's created its own gig economy in itself. And so did you find that you had to change your teaching methods to suit that aspect of the world now? Or
absolutely. One of the things which I'm very lucky, when you are a lecturer teaching at a higher level institution, i.e. on a BA honours, you have the autonomy to amend your work schedule. Unfortunately, colleges don't have that luxury, especially with BTECs. You have to really teach what you've been given. But on our degree, it was exciting because my scheme of work was always changing every day. And then there was times when I said to my students, right guys, what do you want to teach me? And they went, what? And I went, what do you want to teach me? What do you want to teach me? so I can then investigate further to teach you what you've actually said to me, but at a higher level. They were like, what are you talking about, Andrew? I said, that's it. So I think, well, it was a collaboration. It wasn't just like the lecturer is the master of all. I was saying to my students, look, is there anything, let's work together on this. Is there anything what you would like to teach me or what I didn't know? And yeah, we're very happy to flip things, move things around. And because of the lockdown, I've written a new module called TV Broadcasting over IP, where I put students in lockdown situations and they can't leave the house and they've got to perform in a full TV studio. I'm quite a dangerous man when I'm setting up simulations. I will pull out the Zoom feed. I will bring people in randomly who isn't meant to be there, and the students love it. Yeah.
So it's all about. I find it about training the mind to be able to solve problems, because that's probably about at least 60% of the job that we do.
It is, and I will never forget. I think there's a lot of people who made me who I am today, but one of the experiences when I was a kid, I watched Apollo 13 with my dad, and it was in the pictures. And one of the scenes and one of the situations the ground had to work out was the astronauts were breathing in too much carbon monoxide. So
the literal square peg in the round hole.
The square peg in the round hole, and the canisters didn't fit. And there was a scene where one of the engineers went into the briefing room, got a big box and pulled and basically threw all the components from the box on the table. And these components are all the kit what is up in the lunar module and the LIM. So they had to make a filter out of all the components, and that in education is called divergent thinking.
Right. See, for me, the divergent thinking came from the A-Team and MacGyver.
Well, actually, if we look at before that, Sir Ken Robinson, bless him, he's no longer here. He was a professor in creative thinking, and he did a longitude study for divergent thinking. So he asked some school kids aged 10, what can you do with a paper clip? Well, you can pick a lock, you can stick things together, you can use it to pick your nose. And what happened was he asked the same questions again 10 years later, and the students couldn't actually tell you as many answers compared to when they were younger. So my question to you is, are we anesthetizing our students by not incorporating divergent thinking in our delivery?
Could that also be down to the way that things were taught, though? In that traditionally it was a set pattern that people had to follow in the teaching. You could get it out of the book.
Yep. Back then it was we're going to work on page 5. There's a test. Don't cheat because the answers are in the
page
back
6.
of the page 6. Yeah. And don't talk to anyone. Well, that's not how the industry is. Collaboration is key. Yeah. So I think education is vitally, crucially important, and I still think the UK, in terms of the primary the primary level, the secondary level, the college level, they've still got it wrong. We need to really benchmark ourselves to countries like Finland, who give the senior management give their staff free autonomy to teach what they want and how they want.
At the moment, the UK schools, and I think it's very similar in the USA as well, is that a school is there to teach you how to pass a test. It's not there to teach you how to live. So it doesn't tell you how to look at your taxes. It doesn't tell you how to start a business. It doesn't tell you how to think for yourself and go out into the world. You are at school to pass a test. And for a lot of those tests, my brain being the way it is, I failed a lot of those tests.
Same here. I think I've got one GCSE in art, and the whole educational system. The whole educational system needs to be completely and utterly redeveloped to move us further, really.
So speaking of the way that people learn, and there's a good little segue to the sort of the latter part of the conversation that I was intending, and so you're on the university side of things, and with the uptake of YouTube streaming and everything like that, a lot of the information is now available for free. And I wanted to get your sort of side of the aisle, so to speak, when it comes to the difference between learning yourself and actually going to university, because for a lot of people it's a very expensive thing, and something that unless you've got some very accommodating parents, you're probably going to be in debt for many years.
This is the favourite part of the podcast, which I am fully about to enjoy. The transference of knowledge is 100% free. However, transference of knowledge, there's no or very little credibility of that transference of knowledge. So the difference between self-funding, self-investigation and going to university is straight away, when you go to university, there is that quality of academic rigour. And what I mean by that is, I didn't just bob into Salford Uni and go, "Hiya, love, can I have a job?" True. No, who are you? I saw an opening. I had to apply. I had to demonstrate what I am highly accredited in my credentials. And then I had to perform a hard interview. And straight away, there's that quality there. As universities, we are also governed by the Equality Alliance, the Office for Students. And the reason why we have these policies is to protect the students, to make sure we're not giving any false or misleading information. Now, yes, there's a counter argument there. Well, if you're very good at research, then you can do that on YouTube. And there are some very well known, highly respectable practitioners on YouTube. Absolutely. However, one of the things what you get at university, what you don't get online, is physical human transference. Innovation lies highly within HE, higher education. All governments, when governments are facing an issue, who do they turn to? They turn to universities. When we were going through the pandemic, the government was knocking on universities going, hey guys, have we got a vaccine yet? So they do turn to universities in time of need. And the other thing about universities, and it's mentioned in the regulations for Office for Students, is to challenge students. And challenge them, I challenge students on two accounts. I challenge their academic scrutiny and intellect, and I also challenge their resilience within the environment which they hopefully are going to work as a professional. The other thing about going to university is you have assignments, and if a student hasn't submitted their work, there is a penalty. Ours is, if it's not submitted on the date before 4 p.m, they get capped at 40%. So, for example, there was a student years ago who did an incredible editing task. I think I gave him like 95%, but unfortunately he left it, and it was his submission was 401, and it dropped to 40%. And the reason why we do this is because in the industry, when there's a deadline, you have to work to that deadline. When you are learning on YouTube, you take your time, you have a beer, you digest things in your own pace, but that can be damaging as soon as you go on set and you have a DP saying, right, I want a 50mm lens on cam A, can you shoot ProRes at 444, can you give me a negative fill key with a bounce card with diffusion 5.6? I was like, wow, that's intense. So I would say universities, if anyone, just to conclude my long complicated answer, is if you have a choice, I would recommend universities are better than self-studying.
So for the, do you think that's likely to change with, because as somebody that's not gone to university and done it the self-taught way, admittedly I'm not your average sort of person, but gone that other route, I've out in the sort of regular world in what I do, I've often found that my portfolio would speak more than any qualifications that I've got. Do you think the world is shifting that way, or do you think there's a balance in there somewhere?
I think, oh wow, it's a really good question. I think there needs to be a balance. I think, first of all, you have my utmost respect. And the reason why you have my utmost respect is because you've had to be your own regulatory system. You had to sift through loads of YouTubers and loads of information who are probably going to give you duff advice or the wrong advice. But then when you finally come across a highly verified source, it's like gold dust. Now, you, my friend, it's very rare because you have a high resilience to investigation. You enjoy researching. You enjoy solving problems. So you have, we call it intrinsic motivation. If a human being has got a high level of intrinsic motivation and who's got that high level of succeed and that desire to learn, then 100% you don't have to go to university for that.
Yeah,
if you get me.
So would you say that the university side of things is almost training the mind to for those people that are not naturally in that direction to train that muscle?
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's about training the mind, but also going to university. And I must say this as a lecturer, we give students so many opportunities in industry than what you would get if you didn't go to university. And obviously that all depends on subject. But I know what every university course, which is in our regulations, and part of them regulations is called student outcomes. It's all about the destination. Where are they going to next? Which job? Which department? It's about universities being accountable to give students extracurricular opportunities to support their progression.
Now, one thing I find that's definitely a positive for the college and university side of the fence is the human connections. So when you are studying by yourself and you're not part of a team that's working towards a common goal, then you are that team. Whereas in a more sort of formalized education system, you're around other people, and those human connections can come back again long after the education side is finished. I think that's definitely a bonus on that side of the fence.
Yeah. It's I've read a lovely book called The Aha Moment by a doctor called Dr. Mark Beeman. I don't know him personally, so for legal reasons I don't have any shares or financial interest in this book. And he talks about that aha moment, that idea. And he talks about how the brain connects to these different paths to form that, oh my God, I've just had a great idea. And he talks about experience when to form an idea, you need to be around people to talk. And we need other human beings to connect them ideologies and their pathways to form them idea. So being an innovator by yourself is not great, because that's where it can get quite dangerous, and that's where schizophrenia can come in. I don't have any evidence to support this, but I'm sure there is evidence. Some of the most incredible minds on this planet have had schizophrenia or paths of schizophrenia because they're so intelligent, but they're keeping everything in their head. I don't know how credible that is, so I don't know for legal reasons.
I imagine maybe it's not schizophrenia per se, but definitely that even just in general mental health, it's always better out than in. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think talking to people, debating, is really, really crucial. And I find though, students who are students who have enrolled after the pandemic, myself and my colleagues have to increase their and stimulate their inspiration and their communication skills because they've been taught by 16 by 9 square, a screen, and they haven't developed their social connections yet.
And alongside the social connections is the working relationships, and we pick up people along the way. You and I are a classic example of that, of when you work together with somebody and then you later come back and that path merges again.
It does. It does. I must say though, I understand there is a big need and a big investigatory debate about university over self-study, because there is a massive, and you mentioned this in your introduction, broader implication of one word: money. My personal take on education, I am like Scotland. Universities, I think, should be free. I think anyone who's got a desire to better themselves need to be encouraged to go to university. Unfortunately, it's a money side of things. By the time university graduates are out, they've got what, a £40,000 bill?
Yeah, and that can take literally 20 years to clear.
But then I see students who not only want to, so they've completed the BA or the BSc, they want to continue to postgraduate education, which is a master's, and that's more money, thousands of pounds. And then some students will probably take a break, they'll specialise in their career, and then they want to go back again to study on their PhD.
At which point, though, when does it become what I would consider a habitual student?
I think if you're passionate about learning and you have that intoxication and that desire of wanting to know more, and the outlook on life is, you know what, when we leave this world, we're going to be dead anyway, so I really want to fill my brain up with Johnny 5, need more input. If you love something and you enjoy, then carry on doing it.
Do you think that there's definitely a portion of those students that basically choose further education again and again because that's their safety net?
Interesting. Oh, I love these questions. I would say students who finish their further education for like the BTEC and the A levels and might want to do another BTEC, I would say that's a comfort zone. But when it comes to university, I don't think that is the case from my experience, because why would a student go through all that intensity again and again? That's an
Gotta love the
pain. I mean, if you're a sucker for pain, and this is where the thing is, you have to love what you do so much. The pain is beautiful. So,
being obviously in the industry that we are, and we touched on this before, that it's not all roses. No. A working media professional is not an easy job, and I would imagine there's quite a high depression rate that goes along with that, and basically the way that universities are shaping that mind, I do think I I still think there's a place in this world for the university. For me personally, I've never been able to do the traditional education route, and there'll be people that's similar to myself, but I do tend to lean on the side of if you've got the opportunity to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to also shed a light and demystify the stereotype environment of what a university is for someone who hasn't gone to university. Many people who haven't gone to university have watched many films with themes of university, and the films have probably been first of all based in the States, in America, and they see 500 students in a big lecture hall with a gentleman in a suit writing long, multifaceted, complex algebra equations, and you've got to write it down and make notes. You finish, you go to the library. The social side, you might get drunk. And we've moved on so much, and that is not the case. When I deliver my lectures, the first hour, we will be in the TV studio. And then if I see some of my students getting a bit tired, I'll go, guys, go and have a 20-minute break, get yourself a coffee. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go into the hub. And we're going to just recap and have a meeting of what we did then. And then there's times where the week after, I go, right guys, 7:30 in the morning. I want you on set. I'm going to be teaching you about ISO. So we're out filming. So universities and lecturers, we actually get scrutinized quite highly on mixing things up and being neurodiverse as well, and